What's up, Pitt fans? Welcome to another edition of the PG Pitt Show. I'm Stephen Thompson. That's Abby Schnable. We cover Pitt athletics for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and we are here to get you guys ready for Week 2, Pitt and Central Michigan at Acrisure Stadium, noon on ESPNU. Week two is where things get a little bit interesting, and not just within the context of the Pitt season, not just because of their opponent, but you hear coaches say a lot that they do the most growing college football teams do from Week 1 to Week 2. It's when you learn a lot about yourself, a lot of game action first. So, Abby, I don't know about you, but I think I'm really just excited to see how this Pitt team kind of grows week to week.
Yeah, I mean, they came out the gates hot, but we expected that. And so to see how they shore up just the errors that they saw from last week to this week will be huge to see how they're able to improve week to week when we get into ACC play too, because if they're able to not bounce back because they won, but if they're able to kind of clean up those areas that they had problems with in week 1, who's to say when we get down to week 7, they're not able to make progress from week 7 to week 8. So I'm excited.
We're going to dive into the game and what we're looking for on Saturday afternoon. But first, we have a word from our friends over at ZipRecruiter. Are you having trouble finding the right people to hire? Tired of sorting through endless resumes? Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles. So you save valuable time, and now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/audio. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. See a candidate you're really interested in? You can unlock their contact info instantly. Use ZipRecruiter and save your time hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ziprecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, Abby, let's get into it. Let's talk a little Central Michigan Pitt. Like I said, noon Eastern at Acrisure Stadium. Same kickoff time as last week, kind of same setup, but definitely a different team. And since we know a little bit about Pitt because we saw them in game action, give me one thing that you're kind of excited to see from the Panthers on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see how they're able to just, like I mentioned, clean up one of the areas that they wanted to. Was they were really mad when Duquesne's Taj Butts got that big rush in the first half, and you didn't really see it the rest of the game. Duquesne couldn't get the run game going, but this Central Michigan team is very, very run heavy. They've got 2 really solid running backs that combined for 201 yards against San Jose State, but then their quarterbacks also run a lot. And I'm excited to see this Pitt defense, which is a really solid defense, shut that down and hopefully shut it down early, because that's where Central Michigan could really just they could cause trouble there. And so I'd like to see Pitt's defense really come out, shut them down early, because I think that gives you a good idea of what this team can do down the line too.
I completely agree. And I think it kind of ties into the thing that I'm interested or curious in seeing from this team, which is how they start, and particularly how the offense starts. Like you mentioned, how this game starts, how Central Michigan's able to establish themselves on the ground is really important. But I think if Pitt is able to, first of all, win the coin toss, get the ball on offense, which I think in this context they would, in this game, if they win the coin toss, they would want the ball first. If Eli Holstein can be a lot cleaner, if the offense as a whole can be a lot cleaner coming out of the gates, they can start to dictate this game on their own terms. And I think you get into a tricky situation if you're Pitt and either you don't get the ball first or you don't score on your first possession. You kind of open things up for Central Michigan. You let them play the game how they want to, which is to we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but play a lot of ball control, run the ball quite a bit. So I really want to see them, the offense in particular, get off to a fast start, avoid some of the 3 and outs, the quick trips on and off the field that we saw at the beginning of the Duquesne game in particular. So, Abby, shifting gears a little bit, tell me something that you are maybe a little bit concerned about, something that Central Michigan could give Pitt trouble with on Saturday.
Yeah, so Central Michigan had 3 turnovers against San Jose State, forced 3 turnovers in week 1. And we already saw Eli Holstein throw an interception this season. And so I'm just a little nervous that Central Michigan is going to be able to come out and cause some chaos on that offensive end, especially if they kind of come out like they did, or if maybe Kendall Stanley's in that spot again, because that was one of the biggest reasons that Eli Holstein got sacked in the first place, which isn't a turnover, but anytime he's under pressure like that, it's just with a defense that has shown that they can cause turnovers already. It just makes me a little nervous for Eli Holstein and this offensive line that's kind of just still solidifying as they try and protect him even more. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a major issue, but I could see Central Michigan squeezing out a turnover here or there, and this probably, if it happened, it'd probably be early.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's an opportunistic team. It's a team that I don't think is going to be super affected by Pitt's tempo. Again, we're going to talk about Central Michigan a little more in depth in a minute, but they rotate a lot of guys, and if they're able to, like I said, start fast, whichever team starts fast, I think is going to have a real advantage. It's interesting you brought up kind of the pass defense, the turnovers on that side of the ball, because I think even on the flip side, I'm having an eyebrow raised towards Pitt's pass defense. I don't think it was particularly clean the entire way through against Duquesne, which is not necessarily a pass-heavy team. But I think that Central Michigan, because they run so much, they're going to try to lull Pitt to sleep, and they're going to try to bring some of those safeties, especially that Pitt has, who really like to hit and play in the box. I think they're going to try to bring them up and then try to sneak some big plays over the top with their tight ends and things like that. So I have an eye towards kind of the discipline of Pitt's pass defense, and I've seen it be a problem against Duquesne, and if you kind of allow a team like this to break some big plays on you, you could have a little bit of a problem. So that's what I'm looking out for. I'm a little concerned right now from what I saw in the pass defense, but a good chance to clean it up if they can play disciplined. I think that's a really big step forward for Pitt.
Yeah, momentum is everything, especially for a group of 5 team like Central Michigan. If they're able to get some momentum, whether it's from an explosive play like that, with the fact that they do like to use a lot of their tight ends in various packages. And I mean, you never know with them being so run focused. We talked with Pat Narduzzi about it today, is you have to be prepared for the fact that they are going to throw the ball, just because they're going to have to at some point. Which makes it interesting because, like you said, and I think we talked about this after the Duquesne game, is there's been some lack of pass coverage. That's why Duquesne was able to score on Pitt last week. So, Stephen, you've got our Central Michigan preview, our game preview this week. What have you noticed in your look at the team?
Yeah, well, first of all, this team is fascinating to me. I think Central Michigan is just, I think they're a little quirky. They're like very, they're a very quintessential MAC team. I think they're tough. I think they're pretty deep, better than the sum of their parts. And then, a little quirky. It starts with that 3 quarterback system on offense. All of them are going to play. And they really try to play. They're run heavy too. They're going to run upwards of 70 or 80% of the time. It starts with, I'm looking over at my notes, but Joe Labas is the starter. So they play 3 guys, but they do have a clear starter. He's probably the best pure quarterback of the group, according to head coach Matt Drinkle. But they are going to play with some really condensed formations. They're going to play with 3 or 4 tight ends. Maybe they're going to put, a backup offensive lineman in the backfield. And it's not necessarily the most creative scheme in the world, I guess I would say, but they are just going to try to impose their will. And they're going to try to run it down your throat. And the spine of Pitt's defense, I would say, the front 7, the defensive tackles, those inside linebackers are going to have to be really good, and they're going to have to be really stout against the run. The one thing not working in CMU's favor, their starting left guard was lost for the season against San Jose State, a game that they went in as 2 touchdown underdogs, but won by 2 points thanks to the turnovers that you mentioned, but also San Jose State missed a couple of field goals. So they're going to miss one of their starting offensive linemen for the rest of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects their strategy of playing ball control, of really controlling the pace of the game and keeping Pitt's offense on the sideline. Drinkle said that his offensive coordinator called literally a perfect game against San Jose State because they were able to win time of possession, keep control of the ball, and just essentially really just keep the opposing offense on the sideline. That's really how they want to play on offense. And defensively, it's a little similar. They are deep by design. And one of the really interesting things that Drinkle said when I was able to talk with him on Tuesday afternoon was they played maybe 30 of the 31 guys that traveled with them to San Jose State last weekend on defense. They rotate a ton, and they keep responsibilities pretty light per player, just so that everyone can play faster. And I think you see some of that with the way they were able to create turnovers in the passing game. They feel kind of the less they put on individual players, the better the team is able to play collectively. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle Pitt's tempo. I wonder if Pitt's going to try to play a lot faster this week than they did last week in an effort to keep Central Michigan from substituting and maybe keep them a little bit more one-dimensional. So not your everyday team. This is not something that Pitt is going to see really the rest of the year, quite honestly. Pat Narduzzi likened them to maybe Boston College or something like that, but I'm not necessarily sure that Boston College is going to play with 4 tight ends. They're not going to play 3 quarterbacks. They're not going to, there were 19 guys against San Jose State for Central Michigan who played upwards of 10 snaps on defense. So it's just a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of ways that Pitt, is going to have to stay disciplined and, just a lot to keep track of, I think, in this game. So speaking of the game, speaking of a lot to keep track of, Abby, we're going to move into our final segment. Let's talk a little bit of game picks. All right. First, I think I'm pretty safe in assuming that we both think Pitt's going to win this game, right? No questions there.
No question.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's move on to maybe a little bit of a tougher question, one that we grappled with a little bit before hitting record just now. But Pitt's favored by 21.5 points in this game, a little bit lower than that. That I believe it was 37.5 points they were favored against Duquesne. Where do you fall on the spread? Which side are you picking? Does Pitt cover on Saturday afternoon?
I'm gonna say that they cover. I mean, if the offense plays even a little bit like they did last week, they should be able to get scores when they need. I mean, Trey Bukowski can come on and bail them out when needed, but the options that Pitt has makes me think that they'll cover.
I do too. I think they're just going to be ultra aggressive in this game, from the coin toss to basically every fourth down. In the same way that CMU wants to keep their offense off the field, I think Pitt really wants to keep CMU's offense off the field. So I think the foot is going to be on the gas all the way through, and I think, that Pitt does cover. How about the over/under, Abby? 50.5 total points. Which one are you taking there?
And this is the thing that Steven mentioned that I was personally going back and forth on. And I'm going to go with I was right last week by taking the over. I'm going to stick with the over today. Again, we saw some really big explosive plays from that Pitt offense last week. I mean, Blue Hicks touchdown pass, that was crazy. Special teams showed out. And if they play like they did last week while also fixing some of those things that they didn't like, I think that we'll get the over.
Yep, I think a lot of points are going to be scored. I think Pitt's going to, like I said, for the same reason I'm taking Pitt to cover, I think that they are going to hit the over, maybe by themselves, going to be ultra aggressive and really keep their foot on the gas. But we will see what happens at Acrisure Stadium on Saturday afternoon. I don't think this is a foregone conclusion, even though we're both picking Pitt to win. I think Central Michigan definitely does present some interesting challenges. We appreciate you guys tuning into another edition of the PG Pitt Show here on the Post-Gazette's YouTube network. Please like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for a ton more coverage on Saturday. And for the rest of the week, Abby's got more volleyball to cover. And then we will keep you updated all the way through from kickoff all the way through the end of the game of week 2. Thanks so much for joining us again, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.